I got to India on July 14th, 2018, and I stayed until the last day of July. While in the country, I visited Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Jaipur. Jaipur. It was a really active period of travel because I took flights between each of those cities. This episode was recorded in Chennai, but honestly, we barely talked about it. We barely talked about India, except for the people I met on planes. Most of this episode is me and my friend Kevin shooting the shit and reminiscing about high school. So you can skip it, unless you're a fan of Kevin, because I think this is the last episode I recorded with him. This episode has even less travel shit in it than the other ones. This is where I was starting to really get burned out. I mean, I was burned out before, but at this point I was really dragging. So I think I just didn't want to talk about it. But, too bad. I can't re-record the episode. It's done. Embrace your failures. Blah, blah, blah. Bad Travel Podcast. So I'm in India right now.
Nice.
Did you know that? Did we talk about this before?
I mean, I assumed when you said chai that you were in it.
When I said I was drinking some chai.
Yeah.
Well, chai, did you know chai just means tea?
Yeah. I'm worldly.
Well, I didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that, so when I ordered chai tea, it was like TT is basically what you just said.
Yeah. They all laughed at
But
you.
masala tea, you can say.
It's like
and that's the correct way to say it, I guess.
Spiced tea.
Yeah, spice. Masala just means, I don't know if it means spice. It just means something. It just means something. Because if you order like tikka masala, that's like a curry dish. And if you order like masala dosa, that's like dosa with like some potatoes in it. And then if you order masala tea, it's like, it's tea. So masala just means something.
I think it means spice.
No, it just means something, and no one knows what
okay.
it means.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
I'm just trying to explain to you the local customs, culture. So when someone says masala, it just means, it could mean anything.
No, it's cool. Thank you for telling me about the old masala. Have you been ingesting a lot of masala chai?
Why are you asking me these bullshit questions?
Have you been drinking
Talk
a
to
lot
me
of it?
talk to me like we're really talking. Don't look away from your notepad.
Derek, I have to answer these questions, all right? If I don't, the studio's going to get mad.
Well, what are you interviewing me for?
Hold on, let me just
high
get to the next
school
question,
newspaper?
okay? Can I just get to the next question, please?
No. I want to have a conversation. I don't want to sit here and open up Google Hangouts and then have my good friend Kevin be like, "So, have you been drinking a lot of masala chai?" You don't give a shit. Ask
Derek,
me something that you really care about.
All right.
Or don't ask me anything.
I will. This next question's from the heart. When did you... Hold on. Let me read it. When did you realize you liked to travel?
Fuck you. You disrespect me, and worst, you're disrespecting the podcast, of which you're a huge part. I'd say 14, 15%.
We can't disappoint the fans, which is both of our mothers.
My mom found out about this podcast, I would have to kill her.
Derek, you brought shame. Shame on the family.
But before I started traveling places, wasn't India one of the places that you said I should go? I feel
think-
like India was one of the places that you had an interest in.
Sure.
Or am I
mean-
just thinking that you like Indian food and I'm completely fucking off base?
Well, Indian food, I think, is really great. I think traveling anywhere is good. I don't know if I would single out India except to go and get really good food.
You think traveling anywhere is good? You haven't traveled enough then, I guess.
Sure I have. I've been all over. I've been to Branson. I've been to Kansas City. I've been to Oklahoma City. I've been to Lawrence, Kansas.
You've been to Jordan and shit, and you've been to New York, and You've been all over the
etc.
U.S. No, you have. You've been to more places in the U.S. than I've been.
That's true, but the U.S. is
You've
so.
been to Appalachia.
I have been to Appalachia.
Didn't
Yeah.
that suck?
Wasn't that a shithole?
You were telling me like a story about like seeing a bunch of gorgeous mountains, and then like there'd be a really shitty Target or something.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to tell that story? Because
Is it a story, or did I just say the whole thing?
No. That's pretty much it. I mean, like I told you when I talked about this, like yeah, West Virginia is probably the most beautiful state I've ever seen, just because it's just a mountain, just completely covered in trees with like wisps of smoke or mist, kind of like going in the valleys around them, and I was just like, this is the most serene place I've ever seen in my life. As I was like hauling ass through West Virginia.
Because you're like
And,
trying to get as much driving done in one day or something.
Yeah, because I drove from St. Louis to Virginia Beach in a day. I don't recommend that.
Why didn't you just stop for a night?
I could have. I didn't, but I could have. Well, I underestimated West Virginia because, like driving through Illinois and Indiana and Kentucky, I was like, this is no problem. I just knocked out 3 states in like 2 hours.
Yeah,
What's
because they're just
West?
like flat.
Yeah, what's West
featureless.
Virginia to me? It's nothing. It's nothing. It's not even its own state. It's technically Virginia with an adjective. It doesn't even matter. And I start climbing these mountains, and I felt like an eternity just crossing West Virginia because it was so mountainous that I was just like, when the fuck does this state end? But yeah, as I was driving through it, I would see these like beautiful trees and these wisps of mist kind of encircling them. I would then, from the tree line, dominating, just poking out like some just like cancer or something. Just like you just see these like signs dotting the hills, just Target, Super 8, Walmart, and it'd just be like, God damn it, because you knew there was like a town hidden in the trees. It's just the only way you could tell that anything was there was these 200-foot tall poles with brands on
Yeah,
them.
but those are like the landmarks, right? There aren't that many people that live in those hills, and I mean, they all like they work in like industries that are dead, like the mining industry
Yeah.
or Target, I guess, which is also dying,
Yeah. Yeah, the retail
which is also a
apocalypse.
tragedy.
It's just like, yeah, you're like, well, I don't have the coal mine anymore, but at least I can work retail. Who's Jeff Bezos? Like, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
So I'm here in
Yeah.
India.
India.
You've heard of it.
Land of lot of stuff. Are you in Rajasthan? Gujarat?
See, I hate you.
Are you in Bengal? Uttar Pradesh?
You know the states, fucking asshole. Here's where I am. I'm in Chennai.
Chennai. Hell yeah.
Which, do you know what state that's in?
No, I don't. I know it's Tamil, but
Yeah.
I don't know what state.
I think the state is also called like Tamil or something.
Oh, okay.
Tamil Nadu, I think, is the state. It's
You
on
learned
the
some Tamil?
East Coast. No,
Oh, okay.
for 2 reasons. One, because I would never learn another language. It has nothing to do with Tamil. I don't learn. I mean, I've been doing this for like fucking 6 months. You think I would have learned another language by now if I was going to learn a language? No, I haven't learned shit. And 2, like, so many people here speak English.
Mm.
Although, I have to say, it's not the English that... how do I put it? So, I guess because English is spoken so much here that there's kind of like... they have like a really heavy accent, and it's hard for me to understand it.
Mm.
But, I mean, of course, it functions well for them because they speak English as an intermediary between, like, one of the 2 or 3 or 4 languages that are in India. So they all speak with a heavy accent that I can't recognize. You know, in the same way you can't recognize like a heavy Southern accent or something. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Indian. But it's hard for me to understand it, and it's hard for them to understand me because I have this accent.
So,
Like earlier when I was ordering masala tea, they were saying like cheese. I said tea, and they're like cheese. And I was like, no, I don't want.
you
cheese.
should have just rolled with it and seen what masala cheese would have been.
Not interested.
I mean, you do have that thick Midwestern drawl.
It's
So
weird, yeah. Because you always think of your own accent as being a neutral, and when they're like, "What?" I just make myself, I'm sure, like more incomprehensible because I'm like masala tea. Like I just make it into a different stupid accent, but I don't know how to make myself more understandable without. Well, what would I do? I would have to like copy their accent. That would make me feel racist or like I was doing a weird character. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I'm not good at that. That was a problem in Southeast Asia too. Sometimes people wouldn't understand my English, and it's like, should I say it like in an Asian?
Yeah, so this Indian couple that moved to the Midwest for work, I was talking to them. They said when they first got here from India, they like went into Best Buy to like buy a cable or something, and they said that they tried to like they tried to talk to someone, and they're like, "Why the fuck do they talk so slow and weird?" Because I guess everyone in the Midwest just, you know, how are you doing today? And it's like, please,
Oh
just
no.
go faster. I don't know, but they said they like they had a hard time like understanding people from the Midwest, which I was like, oh well, I mean, you think because everyone tells you like, oh, the Midwestern accent, which is a nice even monotone, is the best broadcaster voice.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just a U.S. thing.
Yeah, it's a U.S. thing, I know, but it's just like,
But you are
is
told that your whole life growing up. It's like, yo, don't worry, you have the best accent. It's neutral.
you're told that as you like, drink in cornfields and huff gasoline. You're like, don't worry, you have the best accent.
Right, yeah.
Excellent. Hell yeah, this will come in handy great at the Phillips 66 I work at.
This is a fucking. What a wonderful consolation prize for my shitty life growing up in this hellhole. Well, that's the weird thing, too, is like half the people where we grew up have like a hick accent. So it's just like.
That god awful hick voice. You walk in, you got your just absolutely beautiful broadcaster voice. You walk up to the counter, you're like, "Hello, sir. Can I have a sparkling water?" And the guy's like, "What? What do you want?"
You mean a Gatorade?
Yeah. Cletus, this guy wants non-Gatorade water. Kick his ass. Now, fellas, I didn't mean anything by it. He didn't mean anything. Get him.
He's being non-threatening.
I hate that.
I hate him, and I hate his angelic voice.
Get the Deus Ex Machina that turns him into us. Just like shoots a fucking beam at me. I emerge from the light of the beam. I have like a one of those like tank top undershirts and like a pack of like dip and an empty Mountain Dew bottle that I spit the dip in.
The beam probably just like injects Jack Link's jerky into your bloodstream or something. It's a fucking rooster booster beam.
Put it in my veins.
Gotta love rooster booster.
Love that rooster booster.
Was I with? Were you around when? I think it was. I think it was Mark. I remember being on a trip to Quick Trip one time, like in high school, and somebody was like, "Remember Quick Trip used to have the iced coffee like slushy thing?"
Mm-hmm.
And he did like the iced latte. I mean, it's just like ice and sugar and coffee flavoring, like this brown slop. And like half that and half Rooster Booster, which is like a fucking. Rooster Booster tastes like red vines, but in liquid form and more sugary.
Mm.
So it was just like half latte and half Rooster Booster, with the idea being like, I'm gonna get really fucking caffeinated, and then like taking one sip and be like, ugh, and then throwing it away and not paying for it. Because the fucking guy at the counter doesn't know what happened.
Or care.
Or care, yeah.
He's just watching you silently, just like...
I remember multiple times, like, going in at like 3 a.m. or something and being like, let's just experiment with what we have here at the Quick Trip. Let's pour different shit in cups, taste it, and then throw it away and leave.
Pull the lever! Lightning is just going outside. Just like, turning a hand crank. Yes, more code red. Yes, put the mocha latte in.
There was like something called like the Golden Triangle, which I think revolved around like the Schnucks parking lot, the grocery store parking lot, that Quick Trip on the corner there, and I don't know what the third part of the triangle is. Maybe Taco Bell.
It was just those two. It's just everyone we're from is just bad at math.
Yeah. Just go to Quick Trip, go to the parking lot after Quick Trip. Because you can't hang out at Quick Trip. That would be lame. You want to go to the parking lot to hang out.
Yeah. You go to the parking lot of Schnucks. Open the old tailgate. Crack open a Rooster Booster with the boys. Look up at the stars, which you can't see because the Schnucks lights are blocking it, so you just look at the lights instead.
Wow, look at those pretty lights. There's so many bugs out here. Wow.
Golly. Look at all them moths.
Swarming around the lights like so many doves on the beach.
What'd you say, Cletus? Nothing. No, yeah, you look over at the strip mall, you go, damn, I wish Subway was open right now.
Here we are in the cradle of civilization.
It's a great time.
I missed when my world was that small.
Yeah, you could just go up, hang out in the parking lot, drink a disgusting coffee soda drink.
One of the things people ask me, like, well, traveling must be cool because you're, like, expanding your worldview and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it's painful. I used to only have to know 4 places.
The Schnucks parking lot, the gas station. Is that it?
I mean, that's pretty much it. Hypothetically, there's 2 more. I had to know how to get home.
Yeah, that's right.
And then there was like the coffee shop or whatever.
Yeah. Oh man, good times at that coffee shop. It was so formative.
I think that's got to be true of like any coffee shop in a town the size we grew up in, because like it was such a small town with a culture that was not at all receptive to something like a coffee shop. A place where you go to get a fancy coffee. And so the person running that kind of place has to be like combative by nature. Yeah. To be like, fuck you guys. I'm gonna open a coffee. I don't give a fuck.
And he
was. They have to be a little bit loony. And he was, yeah. He was like a total nut. A real character. Interesting guy. Like I loved him for his fighting spirit. But he was also an asshole. But like just the idea that you're gonna be in this nothing town and you're gonna open a coffee shop and try to like, and he would say that too. He'd be like, I have to educate these fucking idiots about what a latte is, or else I'm never gonna make any money. Remember, he would he would say that all the time.
Like, these fucking morons don't know good coffee at all. Yeah, that was so good.
And he was right.
Yeah, he was. God, that guy. And
it was funny. Cool. It was so funny, like how much he tried to make it work too. Because he started out just selling coffee, and then he was like, "Fuck, they don't even like coffee. They don't give a shit about how it tastes. All they're doing is like ordering mochas and shit." I was a prime offender of that. He's like, "Well, maybe I'll sell smoothies. I'll like sell fruit smoothies." And it's like, well, not doing that great on smoothies. I'm losing money on smoothies, he would tell me. He's like, well, maybe I'll sell ice cream. Everybody loves ice cream. And it's like, well, he had to have like a fucking freezer and all this shit. It was like really complicated. It was like, well, maybe I'll start selling food. And then he would have like fucking breakfast sandwiches, and I would go up there and get like a sausage and shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like
he tried so hard.
All that expansion too. You just show up and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, can I get soft served ice cream with 3 espresso shots poured on top and a sausage sandwich?"
That's exactly what I would get. Yes, I would get an affogato. I would get soft serve ice cream and espresso and a sausage. But I mean, we hung out there all the time. Yeah, and
that was all we did. Because there was nothing else. What are you gonna do?
Else. And like the size of the place too. It was like a big closet.
Yeah. It had 3 chairs.
They had 3 chairs, but that was too much.
Yeah.
The third person in there would feel cramped. Because the third person would have to sit on a chair that would be like directly in front of the door.
Right. And then
the door would open and they would have to get up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were forced to talk to people. I mean, man, it was great.
Yeah. That was a great place. So glad that existed.
Like no other coffee shop had that kind of clientele.
You mean just crazy weirdos from the town?
fucking crazy weirdos from the town. Only crazy weirdos would like have the nose sense to like fucking go to this place once, deal with the owner who's a total nut, and then be like, I'm going back.
Yeah, this guy rules. This place is great.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, you just go in. Like I talked to that guy for hours.
Yeah, me too. Well, sometimes I would get there at like 9 in the morning, and I'd be like, "Is Mark working?" And he'd be like, "No, that's going to be at 2." And I would just sit there for 5 hours.
Yeah, you just sit there and be like, "Oh fuck it, I'm not doing anything."
What am I going to do? Drive the 5 minutes back home? Fuck that! I'll just wait.
Yeah, fuck it. Pour me some coffee, my man.
And I'd be there until 8 p.m.
Yeah,
Drink 14 cups of coffee. Mark
Right.
would get off his shift. Then we'd go get some Rooster Booster and play Rock Band or whatever.
yeah. At some point, I would show up. Be like, "Oh, Kevin's here," you know. Just be like, and then Nathan would show up, and we just start hanging out. God damn it! God damn it! We had a good cafe culture and didn't even realize it.
We didn't even realize it.
God.
It was so weird to have. I mean, I've never since then had a usual
that?
hangout spot. I said I've never since that time in my life had a place that was like a usual hangout spot that you can just go to, and then your friends would show up like a fucking like a sitcom. They're just like, oh
Yeah.
hey, you're of course you're here. You won't even talk about that's never happened to me again in my life. It will probably never happen.
Well, and you knew like the old like people in the town too. So like yeah, because like the artists would come in and you'd start talking to them, and then like other people would come in like loons and crazy people and weirdos and cranks, and we all get together and we talk about like politics and like cash for gold schemes and just anything. It was great. I don't know. You can't.
It was fucking fascinating. Yeah, and the owner was like, he's like a full-on conspiracy theory libertarian,
Yeah.
like quote unquote libertarian, but more of like a conspiracy theory right-wing guy.
Yeah.
And then people would come in there, and he would get into fucking serious arguments with them.
Yes. Yes, he would give them their coffee and talk about how like Democrats are ruining the country and shit. And I was like, this is fucking great. This is
his whole thing was like, we gotta dismantle the education system and then just have a TV channel.
Oh yeah,
the children can watch. It'll be better than going to school and cheaper.
Yeah. He was like, get rid of the Department of Education, replace all schools with TV, and kids will just sit in front of a TV for 8 hours, and that's how they'll learn. And I was like, this is fucking great. I love coming here.
But I mean, I love talking to him, because even if you would have that kind of like argument where it's like, fuck, I think you're insane. After the argument was done, you would, in a way, you would still feel like, okay, this is still my kind of guy, because then you would like rag on the locals.
Yeah.
He would serve you your specialty coffee, which you're not going to get anywhere else, and you would just hang,
Yeah,
he was like weirdly like warm for a person with like such extreme views, such a combative person. But you'd sit around and you're like, fuck,
dude, he was
it's
like
either this guy or nobody,
Well, he was one of the nicest, most charismatic people I've ever met in my life, and he was also one of the most interesting. Besides that, yeah, we didn't agree politically, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Go to like, I don't know, somewhere and like listen to someone talk about like, oh, we need to have a 0.5% tax increase so we can buy, I don't know, more cages for the kids at the school, or you want to go to the guy who's like, get rid of all the schools and replace it with TV. I don't give a shit.
I mean, that's the thing I liked about him is at least he was extreme. At least he wasn't fucking middle brow. And he didn't give a shit if you didn't agree with him. He was still cool because like he hired Mark, and Mark thought he was a communist at that time. He like, he wore like the fucking USSR like lapel or some shit, and he got into arguments with Roger. And it's just like, this fucking rules.
Yeah, it was such a good time. God damn, that coffee shop was great. It
was really good.
And what was great about it too is it didn't have like normal coffee shop clientele where it's like like hipster yuppie people that are just like sitting there on laptops. It was just like, because you couldn't do it. That's what was so great about it, is you could not bring a laptop in there.
No, yeah, like it would always be funny when you'd be sitting there and someone would come with their laptop and look to the left and there's like 2 feet of space. Look to the right, there's 2 more feet. There's no like tables, and it's just like, oh, I will not be working here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my laptop in my bag now.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just you had to talk. It was like and it was just a good cut of like life, right? Because there was that guy who was friends with the guy who owned the place who like did like sculpture, like metalwork sculpture.
Like the worst sculptures ever. Like
But he did
like,
them. Damn it, he actually
yeah,
created
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, that's what counted. That's what counted, right? Because like you live in a small town in the Midwest, and it's like you feel like it would be crazy to even try anything. It would be crazy to do anything. And the fact that this guy was like making sculptures like singles him out as a total weirdo. It didn't matter that the sculptures were shit. They were. But it was just like he had the guts to do them in the first place. Like he put that fucking like right in the middle of the parking lot, which could only fit like 4 cars. And so they put this thing in the middle of the and then suddenly you can only fit 2 cars in the parking lot, and it's like just a big rusted spike. It's a rusty. It looks like a fucking like a sex toy or something.
Yeah, it's just like it's an arc with like a point at the end, just sitting in the parking lot. It
looks like a floppy dick.
And then I remember showing up that day and going in, and I was like, "What's the deal with the sculpture?" And he's like, "You like it? He made it." And I looked at the guy, and he's like, "Hey," and I was like. And then the guy on the car show was like, "Yeah, I fucking love it," I was telling him, I was like, what we need to do? We need to blow this thing up 20 times and put it on the bluffs and make it a sundial. And I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah. Well, he was like, "This is a proof of concept. We're gonna go to like town hall, and we're gonna have this. It's gonna be 500 feet tall. It's gonna sit on top of the bluffs." And people are going to come from all around the country to see it, and it's going to solve the town's financial problems. It's like, what? A big rusty dick sticking out of the fucking hillside is going to solve the financial... How the fuck could you even build it?
I wish he did it.
He had this weird thing where it was going to be like, no, it'll cost like $10,000. It's like, what?
I wish he did it. I wish we had the big metal sculpture that just dominated the bluffs, and it just took out the sun. It blocked the sun. You'd start shivering because you'd be like, "Oh, the metal spike is up there again." That would be so fucking rad. God damn, that would be so good.
It would have been great. Again, that's why I loved him. He was like so extreme. But even as like a 17-year-old or whatever, you're listening to that and you're like, man, you're like 60. How the fuck?
I was like, God
can you
damn,
think this?
I was just like, God. All I thought every time I talked to him was like, someone is alive in this town. You know what I mean? Yeah. Someone is alive. Someone has like thoughts that are interesting in this town. This is great. Like, remember that one day too? Like, you showed up and like he just put like those orbs with smiley faces on them just in the parking lot.
The what?
Remember he put metal orbs in the parking lot with smiley faces painted on them because he was so pissed off that people kept cutting through his parking lot. That he was just like, I'm going to put fucking obstacles in here so no one cuts through.
Right. Yeah, they were just like creepy smiley faces. I remember that.
Yeah, he put 4 of them in the parking lot, and he was like, fuck these cars because you keep pulling through my parking lot and not buying shit. And I was like, hell yeah, dude.
He had that whole thing against, like the city made him put a handicap parking spot in. And he was so pissed because he only had like 4 spots. So he was like...
Yes, I remember. I
never saw him so mad.
He was so pissed. And do you remember what he said? Do you remember what he said?
I do, but I would like you to say it.
He said these handicapped people, they show up with their vans with the motorized ramp and their money showing, telling me I need to put down a parking space.
Like they're the fucking mafia. Like they're a gang.
With their money showing. That's going to be the last thing that I remember as my brain goes when I'm like 70. Just like with those handicapped people with their vans and their money showing. like they're Rockefellers. Just like come out with like
they really fucking muscled me into putting a ramp. He was just like, I don't have any handicapped customers. It's like, well, I wonder why. They probably fucking come in and you would yell at them.
I don't think, like, that's the thing. He was such a nice man. I don't think he would. Unless, like, he wanted to talk politics and he'd talk your ear off, which is like, God, he had just such an interesting take, like, just on everything. He watched, like, films.
I mean, compared to the people we knew, he was, like, really worldly. And it's not like I don't think he ever even left the U.S., but he had just been, like, around the United States. Yeah, he'd been all over. And it's because he was, He was a jeweler. Like, he made, like, fucking jewelry for Renaissance fairs. And he would go
was a
around with the
smith.
Renaissance fair. Yeah.
He
He was a smith. That's right.
He smithed
smouthed.
metal, and he
Yeah.
would do the jewel stuff, the Ren fairs and the sci-fi conventions, because that's where he made money. Because people would pay $500 for a tiara, but like he did all kinds of metal work and jewel work, and he had like a forge. He had a foundry in his basement, I think.
I remember
just-
he lived kind of in the like, bad part of town.
Yeah,
And I think it was because nobody would fuck with him.
yeah.
No, like, no one's
Yeah.
going to call the police on the guy that's like, there's like fire and shit coming out of his basement at 2 a.m.
Yeah, you know, and you don't realize it when you're that young that like it's very rare to meet someone that's genuinely interesting. That it's not just
Yeah.
an affectation. That it's not just something that's like an ornament. That's just there. It's just he's just it's structure of his being to be that interesting. It's not
Well,
put out.
I think it's because it's not that he wasn't full of shit, but he was never dishonest about
No.
who he was. He was
No.
always himself, like, totally. He, like, really sat well in his personality. He just did it. You know, it's not like he fucking made sense all the time, but he didn't have, like, any, like, of that neurotic shit where it's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to act. He did himself. He
Yeah.
was just himself completely. And like it's like he picked the most extreme version of himself, and he's like, I'm that. I know who I
Yeah.
am, and that's what made him interesting.
I can count on my hand how many people I've met like that. Extremely interesting figure. Extremely interesting. Very, very formative, I think, to all three of us, all four of us who hung out there. Just,
Yeah, definitely.
man, what an interesting character. We could talk about him forever, but I guess we should talk about India.
Oh yeah, let's do that. To India. Let's move on to India.
India.
No, I have stuff to say. Shut up. I've got a lot to say.
It's a land of contrasts.
Some people would define India as a country on the subcontinent of India, and I would agree with those people.
It runs from northern India in the north to southern India in the south.
Hold on, I gotta get some water. Getting to India really sucked because it was like a
What'd you
30-hour
find?
trip. So I was going from Istanbul, Turkey, and then I flew into Mumbai initially, but only on the way to Bangalore. So I just had a 12-hour layover in Mumbai. Oh, 1 second. There's my special thali that I ordered. Room service. Wow. You didn't stop recording, right?
Nope.
All right. We are back. Sorry about that interruption. Got some room
That's,
service.
That thali's not going to eat itself, huh?
No, if it did, I'd be pissed. Can you imagine getting food and then having it eat itself right in front of you?
Yeah.
It'd be like getting cucked by food. I hate
Yeah.
being cucked by food. I didn't eat everything on that tray. There's like a fucking giant mound of basmati rice. I didn't touch it all. God, I had a fucking headache. No, I've had a headache like all day. There's nothing to do with the food.
This is I think the best episode we've ever done. It's an hour of us talking about our youth, and then the second hour will be us talking about the various ailments we have.
My back hurts.
My back is killing me, Derek. No, I went to the doctor. He just wanted to give me pills. I didn't want pills.
He was trying to fix me. It's like, what am I, your science project? Fuck off.
Yeah.
So now I'm just a problem to you, huh, Doc? I love
Yeah.
calling my doctor Doc.
I like to eat a comically sized carrot while I talk to my doctor.
Well, it might look comically sized to you. It's actually a normal sized carrot, but Bugs Bunny is a rabbit, so he's quite small.
Interesting point. However, how do you explain his equal, if not taller, height to Elmer Fudd, who is not, in fact, a rabbit?
Elmer Fudd is, in fact, a manlet.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that would explain the gun.
Oh! Whoa!
Boom! Boom!
Folks, stick around. We've got more.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, getting to Bangalore really sucked. It just took forever. And like I was like sitting around at the airport for 12 hours. It took 2 hours to get through immigration. I was getting there at 4 a.m. too, and so my thought was I'm walking into the airport at 4 a.m. So there's not going to be a lot of people there. But I go in and like it's fucking packed. So I don't know what it's like at 4 p.m., but 4 a.m. really sucked.
Where is Bangalore?
Bangalore is like in the south. But on the ride into Mumbai from Istanbul, there's like this huge group of Indian folks coming in, and they were all part of the same group. Older guy and his wife sat next to me on the plane, and I started to chat with them, you know. They're telling me about how they live in Mumbai and all this business. It was like a group of 75 on this plane, and they were all coming from Portugal, where they were celebrating, I guess, the 60th anniversary of something. I don't know what. It wasn't clear. The 60th anniversary is something. It had something to do with. This is like his literal words. A spiritual guru. So it was like. Yeah, a group of 75 with some kind of religious movement went to Portugal, hung out with a spiritual guru. And I was afraid when he said that because I was like, uh-oh, are they going to try to recruit me? Didn't try to recruit me, at which point I felt like, what? So you don't want to recruit me?
You saying I ain't got no spirit? You saying I'm dead inside? Saying I'm a husk? Well, I don't even want to join your spiritual movement. I'll start my own spiritual movement.
But they were really nice, this guy and his wife, and they were like, oh, yeah, when you get to Mumbai, you know, call us, stay with us. You know, they were very, he gave me his card. Super nice folks. There's a girl in the seat just in front of me who was also part of the spiritual gathering or whatever the fuck. I want to say she was like between like 20 and 23, young girl. She looked kind of, I don't know how to put this, hip. She starts to talk to me like, oh, where are you from? And she had like this accent that I thought sounded kind of like a California accent. But she's from India, so I think in learning English, she decided, I'm going to have this accent. I don't know. Anyway.
No.
She was really funny because she was asking me about California and stuff, and I think she had this stereotype of Californians where she was like, "So do you like go scuba diving?
Do you surf?
Yes, yeah. Do you surf?
Yeah.
No, no, I don't scuba dive. No, I don't surf. You rock climb? No.
I drink coffee and hang out."
Man, I barely even hang out. I'm not even that functional, you know.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know, she's being like a little flirty. But then, you know, I wasn't sure like if the people sitting next to me were like her parents or what their relationship was, because it seemed like they knew each other or they were vaguely related. Sitting backwards in her seat, she was talking to me. She was like, do you know, she did this like sneaky voice, like, do you know about Mary Jane? She looks over at the old people and she's like, you know about Mary Jane?
You were like, yes.
I looked at the old people and they didn't like have any kind of reaction. I was like, do they really? How could they not know if they speak English? And I was like, I know what you're talking about. And she was like, in her sneaky voice, she was like, are you a member of the Mile High Club? Yes, really. Yes, this girl asked me that.
Cool.
In front of these old folks. And then she saw me like do this thing where I looked at them and I looked back at her and she was like, oh, don't worry, they're not my parents or anything. and then she was like, it's just like this spiritual, like, whatever. And then she rolled her eyes, and I was like, you're disrespecting the guru.
Dude, she sounds cool. Fuck the guru. That's what I say.
Yeah, I think she only went on the spiritual retreat because she wanted to go to Portugal for free or something.
Respect.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did you go on a date or?
I mean, I know about, like, I know when people are being suggestive, and I just it felt like to me she was implying that we should go fuck in the toilet on the plane. It seemed like she was like, because here's what I said to the Mile High thing.
Yeah.
I said, I laughed and I said, I don't think people do that, really. And she was like, well, you never know till you try. And I was like, no, I think you get arrested for that. I'm being like a really big fucking dweeb. And she's like, isn't it a shame that you've been on so many flights, but you're not a member yet. You don't have your membership card. And again, I'm looking at the old people. I'm like, stop doing this to me. These lovely old folks have just invited me to their home. And I don't know who you are to them, but this is weird.
So did the conversation just peter out? Did you, it was just like, yeah.
I invited her to the airplane bathroom with me, and I had her watch me take a shit.
Damn, dude.
And then I wrote up 2 membership slips. I gave her one, kept one for myself.
You were like, ma'am, I would never, ever have sex in the bathroom when I can go in there and jack off perfectly fine. I masturbate in the airplane bathroom. I don't fucking defile it.
That chick was just too cool for me, She was talking about, like,
too out there?
She was just talking about base jumping and fucking all this other stuff, and you're a bit wacky, Too much.
Yeah.
Too much for me. And she was just, like, continually disappointed. I don't know why she kept talking to me, because she was just asking me about all this cool shit, and I was like, I don't do anything. You don't understand.
Stop!
I feel like you're, like,
It's
painting
time to
me
stop.
with a bunch of, like, positive, like, stereotypes of what you think people from California are like. And it's like, it's not how it is with me. And also, I'm not even California. I'm from the Midwest. But I wasn't going to say that after she had asked me all this.
Yeah.
That's the thing, too, is I should have just lied, right? I mean, like, do you surf? It's like, yeah, of course I fucking surf. You're never going to get the chance to see me surf. So it doesn't matter whether I surf or not.
I just like to imagine, like, she's just sitting there reading some in-flight magazine. You just sit down. You're, like, soaking wet with salt water in your swim trunks, carrying your surfboard, your frosted tips, like, pulled back. And you're like, I'm from California. Hold on. Let me do a fat bong rip.
The thing is, she had, like, vocal fry. She had, like, a Valley Girl accent.
Yeah.
And I was like, where are you from? And she's like, oh, Mumbai. And then later on she would be like, yeah, but back in Bombay. And I'm like, am I supposed to call it Mumbai or Bombay? And she was like, well, the name is Mumbai, but the spirit is Bombay. And it's like, well, that doesn't fucking tell me what I'm supposed to call it. Helping me out here.
Cool. Well, it sounds like you met an interesting person there, Derek.
Yeah. She offered to, like, she was like, I'll put you in contact with all my friends in India. And I haven't hit her up on Facebook because I'm just like, they're going to be too fucking cool.
You'll show up and they'll be like, hey, Derek, we're going to go base jump into this gorge. And you'll be like, what if we just sat down and didn't do that? What if we base jumped into a book, huh, gang?
How about we base jump into some sober living? How's that sound?
Yeah, we base jump into some sobriety, huh? Why don't we hang 10 at the library, huh, gang?
I was on this, and then after getting to Mumbai, I had a flight to Bangalore, and I started talking to this dude in the airport, and then he ended up sitting next to me on my flight. So we're talking, and he's a really interesting dude because he had this story where, like, he dropped out of school. He was going to be an accountant, and he was like, I don't want to be an accountant. He dropped out. He's like, now I'm going to be an architect. And he had just traveled to Brazil, had been around South America, and he was coming back to India. He was going to like sort of spend a couple months kicking around and then maybe go to architecture school. And I was like, that's a badass story. We get into this conversation about like sort of, I mean, it was kind of deep in a corny way because he was talking about how he got really into like yoga, like meditation. Like he said he like was into these things for like a number of years. And so we were sort of talking about basically our view of the world. And his whole thing was like, I'm a materialist, you know, and I try to see things as they are and not project my own feelings onto them. And essentially, when I look at an object and it upsets me, it's because I'm trying to look at it in a way that it's not. You know, if I want it to be something else, that's coming from me. It's not coming from the object. So, you know, I just have to free myself from want. And he was saying, now I don't feel upset anymore. I don't feel like happy, but I'm within myself because everything I have is within my body. I'm part. You're like smirking. Go ahead, interrupt.
I was going to say, but wait a minute. Are we not aware?
Okay, that was a pretty good Zizek.
Yeah. Is it not the lack of wanting a form of wanting itself?
And he was kind of like talking about how I don't know. We just talked for like a couple hours about like how people make themselves miserable in the different ways that they want, and so they don't know how to want correctly. Most people don't trust their ability to sort of learn. And we were talking about essentially everyone has the ability to adapt to new spaces. When you go somewhere, you can sort of, using your sensing apparatus, you can be like spatially aware and you can find your way. And as long as you trust that and you trust yourself, there's no reason to be neurotic or afraid. You know, those all come from different kinds of wants. We're talking about all this goofy bullshit. Anyway, I was getting along with the guy really well, and I was like, man, this guy's pretty chill, pretty smart. And then he was talking about that stuff about like, you know, I no longer feel sadness, but I also no longer feel happiness. I'm just completely, whatever. I'm totally just in the world.
Ego death.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was like, so cool. Yeah, so what were you doing in Brazil? And he was like, this girl I was dating invited me to Brazil. She got pregnant, and then she didn't want me to raise the child, so she broke up with me. And then I was just sort of traveling around South America by myself. And then as he was talking, it seemed like he was actually very depressed. And I was like, well, this is great. I was just fucking agreeing with you about everything. And it turns out you're actually depressed. And I was like, gee, I'm sorry to hear that. And he was
Everything
like,
he says makes sense. I wish I was dead. Ah, well.
There it is.
Yeah.
I knew there was a reason we got along so well.
I am a nihilistic husk. Let's hang out. This is what I assume you sound like. This is what you sound like in my head, Derek. I don't know what you actually sound like.
Hello.
Top of the morning to ya. I'm free of wanting.
Yeah, I mean, so that was a cool guy. He was very nice, and he like invited me. He was like, "Hey, you know, if you're not doing anything, you could travel with me." And I was like, "No, I'm good." You seem really cool, but I think you're gonna make me be depressed. Also, I mean, we were talking about things that I don't really talk to people about. But, you know, fundamental ways about how you view the world and how you find yourself in it. And then at the end of the day, it's like, I don't really want to have those conversations all the time. It's fucking exhausting.
Yeah, and then you have to think about it, and you have to conjure it up, and you have to go, oh, yeah, me too. And I'll try to, like, you have to do, like, a ping pong back and forth where you're like, I'm also full of existential dread and think about this. And it's like, do I really? Or do I just drift around and think about what meal I'm going to eat next?
Yeah. I mean, is this really a deep conversational topic that underlies everything, or is it only as important as talking about like what you're getting for lunch, or less so. It's probably less important than what you're getting for lunch, right?
I would say so.
I,
'Cause,
I
like,
would
you know, are you
rather
gonna
fucking hear like what's the good spot to have than I would to hear about
right?
like how do people control their desires.
Well, the other thing too is like in conversations like that, I've noticed no one actually like. There's never a disagreement. That would be really interesting if someone was like, "Yeah, you just have to want differently and free yourself from wanting," and someone else is like, "No, you don't."
No, I
It's
have
always
had conversations like kind of like that actually, but it's always with people that are dumbasses because they're like, well, if you don't want anything, then you're not going to get a nice new car.
I respect that honestly. That's like, well, what? I want a fucking BMW. Why would I? What are you talking about? you know.
The real like deep shit is stuff you would never talk about with anybody. Like, do you wipe front to back? Do you do a little twist? How do you do it?
Do you wipe sitting down or standing up?
I stand up on the toilet.
Pound my chest and go, I'm shitting. Hear me shit? I don't know.
It's funny too because another thing we were talking about is like kind of like the real trick is to not think about these things. Because once you start thinking about how you're
you
thinking,
failed miserably.
yeah, I mean, like you get caught up in a trap where you're just like, I don't want to be neurotic, and then you're like, in your head, you're like, oh, I'm being neurotic, and then like it colors your perception, like it's like this weird thing, and you have to break it. You have to break the cycle with just action, you know. And so like talking about it doesn't even really help necessarily. It's not like it clears things up. It just muddies the water.
Right.
You know, you'll never be helped that much by like talking about cognition as you will by just like getting a hobby, you know, building a birdhouse or whatever the fuck you do.
Here's the thing: is like I feel like the only way that you actually can even break out of like the mind prison of consciousness is like dialogue with other people. Because if you try to do it yourself, like it's like the disease is talking to itself. Which is why people in solitude just go for ego death. They meditate until they don't want. Which I don't, feel like dialogue would be better, but then you'd have to leave the house. So I get it. Anyway,
What are you saying? You wish you were in jail?
no, I'm just saying that it's like consciousness is a mind prison. You have it, and it's like how are you going to deal with it? Are you going to maneuver through it and have like dialogue with people and try to figure it out, or are you going to like meditate alone in solitude and try to?
Well,
kill
I
it?
mean, you don't do either. Ideally, Ideally, you don't. You just get over it because it's childish. It's childish to ruminate. Ruminating is for fucking babies. You know that? That's what I realize.
Yeah.
Whenever someone's deep in thought, they're not like a wise old. They're not like a genius. They're a dumbass. Knock that shit off.
Well, yeah, you hopefully it would become mundane at some point, and then you'd focus on the real shit, like where are you gonna get your food?
But like seriously, because it's like when you think about something, it's like a substitute for doing shit a lot of times. It makes you more ambivalent. And I'm not talking about stuff like that you need to think about, because it's not like you're building a rocket ship. You know what I mean? It's not like you're addressing a real problem. That's the whole thing. It's all illusory. You're making something into a problem that's not a problem. Like that's the thing. That's like the gulf between your wants and reality is you're projecting your wants onto the world. It doesn't align with reality, and you think that's a problem. It's not a problem. You gotta just get over it, move on. And you don't do it by thinking about it. Thinking about it is a way of prolonging the problem so that you can stay in dialogue with it. The only way to solve your ambivalence is to just do shit. And it doesn't matter what you do. Just do anything. But don't think about it anymore, because that's just a way of making yourself crazy.
Well, glad we had this dialogue about it.
It was a monologue.
It's all right. I call it a unilog.
Yeah.
India, a land of contrast.
Thank you for that. You could be a narrator for a very boring documentary.
Now, cedarwood has a property all its own. The ridges in the wood pattern go against the grain when cut, so you have to do a 45-degree angle cut to get the best joint movement in the dresser.
Oh my God, is that true?
No, I made it up. I just strung words together.
Oh wow, it sounded so cool and official. That sounded really smart.
I literally was going like I was in my head. I was just laying down wood in front of the train as it was going, just building the rail.
You should do an improv documentary.
I think that's what I want more than anything, Derek. Is just someone somewhere to hear this and go, "This guy has a voice that we can make money off of," and someone just pay me to talk about fucking macaroni or whatever in commercials.
Nobody wants you to sell macaroni. You
But they might.
you would your voice would fit in like a company safety video where it has to be very dry and serious. No one has to think you're joking.
Step 1. Don't stick your dick in the hard hat. Hard hats are for your head, not your dick. Kind of like that.
That's pretty good, but I would say having your dick in a hard hat would only improve company safety.
The first mistake that Dan made was putting the hard hat on his head and not stealing all the hard hats and making a Gundam out of them and wearing them in the work zone.
Whenever you think about harassing your coworkers, stop thinking, start doing.
Oh, no. No, don't do that. What did Derek do wrong in that sentence?
That's a pretty good...
Was it A, winking at the camera, B, licking his lips, C, wringing his hands together, or D, all of the above?
I would like to have a guy doing that voice like as he's getting fed into a wood chipper.
Turn on the wood chipper. You're only killing a man. The darkness that inhabits my body is ethereal and ongoing. You cannot kill it. What sent me here will come for all of you soon. Rejoice, for freedom is near.
It's pretty good.
Well, I feel like I could do the macaroni voice too. I don't have to do just the safety video voice. You know?
Let's hear
It's
the
like,
macaroni voice.
When you're tired of making macaroni for 5 people at once, choose Extremely Easy Macaroni. It's great for you.
It's not the
pretty good.
1950s. They're not going to hire you to do the macaroni guy.
Sorry.
The
God damn it.
the macaroni voice now is like, "Hey,
Oh, yeah.
hang on a second. Wait a minute.
Dude, you do a great 90s kids commercial voice. Damn, we could join forces, dude. I'm telling you.
And now you can load macaroni into your Nerf gun. Wow. It blasted hot cheese into my throat.
It's burning my larynx.
It's chocolicious.
When will you kids ever learn?
And now, when you take a dump, your poop will be yellow. Ah, this rocks.
Cool.
Bro, I took a sneak at your shit in the toilet earlier. I saw it was yellow. You been eating Mac? You know it.
Up top, my man.
Give me top, my man.
You know, that anecdote about a 90s commercial selling garbage food reminds me of India, a land of contrasts.
I love to be a white hetero youth. Me too. This rocks. Do a kickflip.
Yeah, but oh man, I think this is good. I think we should never mention that you're in India, and then at the end there's an obvious cut where you're like, oh, by the way, we talked while I was in India. It's
Hope
like,
you
that's
enjoyed the India episode. If you want to learn more about India,
go to www.wikipedia.org, type India in, just read it.
yeah.
Just check it out.
Well, I'm not going to stop you. If you want to learn more about India, there's nothing I can do to prevent that. So
did you do anything in India that was like, so like, for example, like if I went to India, one of the things that I would probably like to do is just go watch a cricket match.
see, I didn't even think of that.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be here for like another week and a half, so maybe I'll do that.
So how do you like Chennai? So here's the thing I know about Chennai is that it's kind of like an arts capital for like traditional Indian music and that kind of a thing. So like Carnatic music and Hindustani music. You see a lot of that?
Do I see like music and art on the street when I'm walking around? Not real. I mean, like, no. I can only really compare it to Bangalore because that's the only other Indian city I've been in. I had a friend ask me earlier this week, like, how's it going? How's traveling? And I'm like, Pretty good. Chennai is walkable compared to Bangalore, which to my friend meant nothing.
Yeah.
I'm just so fucking disconnected.
Golly, it's great. There's all these tall buildings and there's lots of people and
No,
I'm having a good time.
I'll compare the two. I'll try to compare them. India in the cities is like very crowded.
Like how would you say like describe the street scene? Like I'm walking down a street in Chennai. What am I seeing?
First of all, you don't want to be walking down the street because it's fucking hard to walk down the streets. There's just a lot of shit like. It's like in Southeast Asia where there's like motorcycles, there's like bikes and shit parked on the street, or people are like banging on machinery or selling fruit or something. Like the sidewalks are hard to walk on because they're just covered in stuff. Or, I mean, like just broken up, like they're not well maintained. And then the streets themselves, like the traffic is just crazy, lots of honking. It's like one of those like ad hoc traffic systems where it's just like everybody knows what they're doing, but not because of like what the lines are on the road. They're not following some other set of rules. They're just like paying attention to what the cars around them are doing. When I go places, what I want to do is I want to walk around and get a lot of walking in. And when I was traveling through Europe, like every day I would get like 20,000 steps, like 10 miles of walking. And in India, I'm looking and like on average, I'm walking like 2 miles, like a lot less because like I was in Sweden before and I could walk for a couple hours and it'd be fine because it'd be a nice walk. And here, like literally I walk for 10 minutes and I'm like, holy shit, I need to lay down because it takes a lot more like mental energy to just like understand how to move through it. It's not that I'm super stressed out, but it's that I do have to be a little bit more vigilant. I mean, I try to be cool about it, but it's hard when like fucking tuk-tuks are flying by and almost clipping your arm every few seconds. Constantly guys on bikes are honking at you. And then you'll come to a spot in the sidewalk where it's just like fucking completely full of like parked bikes and other shit. And you can't continue. You have to walk into the street. At the same time, like the cows seem fine. Like every now and then there'll be a cow walking in the middle of the road. Nobody hits the fucking cow, and I see people cross the road. I haven't seen anybody get hit. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but I guess my point is people do watch where they're going. I think people are careful when they're driving. I don't see a lot of dings on cars, but it's still a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
So what was I saying? Bangalore is a bigger city. I mean, Chennai is also a big city, but Bangalore has more tall buildings and stuff like that. It looks maybe more like a city, where Chennai is a bit more spread out and it's on the beach and it's maybe a little bit more old school, a little bit more chill. I went on like this walking tour in Chennai. And the person that did the tour like grew up in Chennai, and they were saying they always got the impression that Bangalore is like, oh, Bangalore is the cool city in southern India. And so like there's this rivalry between Bangalore and Chennai.
Well, the thing I know about Bangalore and also Hyderabad is that they are like big tech centers, Bangalore especially. Chennai, the only thing I know about Chennai is like it's like an arts destination.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of times when I was in Bangalore, people asked me like, are you in IT? Which I had never been asked before.
Well, you look like a nerd.
Even so, I'd never been asked if I was in IT before.
Just because I wear glasses and drink Soylent and talk about JavaScript all the time does not mean
Here's
I'm in
my
IT.
impression of a computer programmer. I love to program computers. I love to write code. Wah. That's my impression.
Damn.
That's what they sound like. That's what they sound like to me. That's what you sound like.
Oh, I know.
I mean, Bangalore is, even though there's a lot of people and it does have tall buildings and stuff, it doesn't feel like the layout isn't like an American city, of course. I mean, it's different and it's hard to navigate, and it doesn't feel like there's really a center. I mean, it feels like it's all sprawl. And like Chennai, it's the same thing. It's like, to me, I can't like detect the center of it, you know, because everywhere is,
It's all
well,
city.
it's just that it's all of a certain type of thing. Like even if you go to a quote unquote like nice restaurant where there's going to be like servers and stuff. You might find yourself in a nice building, but the building next to that nice building will still be like a shack kind of. In Bangalore, more than Chennai, there are like hip joints, the kind of places you could find in any major metropolitan city, but it will just be like that one building, and then next to it and on each side it'll be like, you know, places that have been run the same way since probably like the 60s or 70s. I mean, part of the reason why I started off in Bangalore is because I thought like this will be like an easy introduction to India, because it's like it's a wealthier city in India. Sometimes it's called like the green city in India. You know, a lot of that's just PR. And part of it is like, you know, when you said what you know about Bangalore is that it's like a tech hub, and it's like, okay, but don't think about it as a tech hub, because it doesn't look like Silicon Valley. It looks like an Indian city. And though there might be
I'd
like,
hope it wouldn't look like Silicon Valley. Hope it looked better than that.
right.
Yeah, things are mixed up, jumbled. There's houses everywhere, busy streets, street sellers, all this other stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
Fun thing someone told me. This woman I knew who's from India. I was talking to her about like just India and the United States, and we were talking about the differences. And she said, "Yeah, like there's actually communities in India that like try to recreate suburban style dwellings for people who come back who've been like away working in the States for a long time, so they don't get like too culture shocked. You know, all around India, there's these like little tiny, you know, America looking places that people who come back live in to reorient themselves.
Huh, really? Oh, I didn't see any of that.
Well, there's also people I talked to who came here, and I was like, so what's your takeaway from the States? Because I was like talking, I was like, you know, because like if you watch all the propaganda, you know, in like films, it's like this enchanted wonderland where anything can
What,
happen.
the United States?
Yeah, well, because you know, it's like New York.
Yeah,
New York,
I mean, well,
it's
that's
New
just
York
how like
and LA.
American stories are structured.
Yeah, it's like, damn, it's just beautiful and enchanted or whatever. And then like I asked them about that, and they're like, yeah, you know, before I came over, I was talking to my friends, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna party and go out in the town and all that. You know, it's gonna be like a never-ending like great place. And I was like, and then what happened? And she's like, well, then I went to Kansas City.
Right. Yeah, I guess anybody
everyone
you
was
would
in
be
bed
talking
by-
to would be like in the Midwest.
Yeah, and they were like, I went to Kansas City, and everyone was in bed by 9, and none of
Yeah.
that happened. The other thing too, which was really striking, which I thought like, yeah, that's like the worst part, is like someone was telling me like, yeah, when she lived in Hyderabad, she would walk out, like she would walk to work, and you know she'd see like street sellers and people she knew, and like someone would give her like water, and she'd talk, and she'd like get food from a stall, and let's figure that. And she's like, yeah, then I came to America, and I literally just had an apartment. I would get in my car and drive to work, wouldn't see anybody, and then drive back. And she's like, the first year here, I was just completely depressed because of how like
You're
barren it
totally
was
an individual.
from a social standpoint.
Yeah. You have no
And I was
like
like-
sense of the social body.
She's like, yeah, for the first year, I was just absolutely like distraught because of how like barren it was.
That makes sense.
Socially.
The dude I was talking to on the plane, the guy who was, you know, his girlfriend didn't want his baby or whatever. That guy was telling me
Yeah.
that like being away from India and being in South America, he realized like how much he like really loved his home, because he felt that in India you could always talk to somebody, even a stranger, and you would soon enough find, you know, that they were actually your friend, you know, just by talking to anybody. Like he was talking about like going to he like traveled all up and down India, and he was talking about how like in a small town he was traveling through, he like struck up a conversation, and then the people invited him to stay over at their house. He stayed there, and they cooked him breakfast, and then somebody knocked on the door, and it was the neighbor, and the neighbor was like, I want him to stay at my house tonight. And he was like, that's not weird, it's just like a normal thing. You always treat your guests very, you know, nicely. you have a general sense of care about other people. And I was just like, oh, that doesn't sound right to me. I'm not sure.
That sounds fucked
Sounds like
up and weird. You don't have a general distrust and think every stranger is there to kill you?
seems like a mistake. Hey, this is an edit from the future. After this part, we just talked about high school for like 2 more hours. And then...
Oh, should I stop recording?
Oh, yeah. Well, let me just wrap up really quick and say, I'm sorry we didn't get to talk much about India. And thanks. Thanks for talking.
That's all from me. It's no problem, Derek. Keep
all right,
up
we don't
your
have to do
world
that.
travels.
Don't say all that shit. Calm down. No,
And,
just stop.
From all
just
of us
stop.
here
just
to you.
Go and stop recording. It's fine.
Hope you learned a lot, and tune in next week on the Bad Travel Show podcast.
That's enough. All right, bye.
Bad Travel. Okay.